All right, good morning, folks. Again, going to do a short video, a lot of coding, or more coding, I should say. We're going to finish up processing with making a Pong game. And yes, that's Pong on the left. Yes, that's an old TV monitor, it looks like, and it was. And there was the slot, you put a quarter in there. And quarter would have been like $1 today, I suppose, maybe even a little bit more. But at the time, it was a quarter, and due to inflation. And this is the grandparent of all modern video games, and it was called Pong. And on the right is what we would do with Pong as we got this rolling, and that's the screen when you played the game. If you can imagine, this little pixel went back and forth. It wasn't even round like a ball. You would just bounce it back and forth. And we're going to go ahead and make that, and that's going to be your final project. So I'm going to show you parts of it, and then you're expected to make the other parts of it, and you're to document it, and we will give a whole list of criteria as the game progresses, but I'll walk you through each day. So we'll have a little bit of a lecture today, a little bit of a lecture Wednesday, and then Friday, it'll be due the following Monday. So I'm going to give you the whole week to work on it, due Monday. And all right, so let's look at our own game and version of processing. We're going to make it a two-player game. This is important in the real game, because the reason Pong was put in restaurants and bars everywhere, because they wanted people to talk. If people talk in a restaurant, they stay and eat more, they drink more. So Pong was looked at as a game that was more, hey, people will talk and they'll stay in there. And it became, did incredible numbers for at the time for video games, and it really did usher in video gaming. All right, so we want to stay in there. Your game should look like the screen on the left. You should score 1 point when the other player misses. The first to 10 wins. Use the up and down arrow keys for the player on the right, W and S keys for the player on the left. The game should tell who won. So, and we'll go through a whole list of design features you can start thinking about doing with this down the road Wednesday, as you can add more to it. Okay? So if I'm going to play a game, in the beginning here, I'm going to think about all the things I want. The screen starts with a ball, a net, 2 paddles, and player score set to 0. So here it is. That little dash line is supposed to be like a net in a tennis game. All right? Their scores are right there. There's a paddle, and right here's a paddle. So here's like a net. Here's the score, the scores. Here's a paddle, paddle. Well, we can make ours all. The ball moves horizontally from a center point. If hits the right side, player on the left scores 1 point and the ball returns to the center. If the ball hits on the left side, it should be, wait a minute, let's get back here a second. If the ball, I should say, the ball. Let me get back up there. If the ball hits the right side, player on the left scores 1 point and the ball returns to the center. If the ball hits the left side, player on the right scores a point and the ball returns to the center. So the idea is you're trying to score it in there. Score on the screen changes with each score. If the player touches the ball changes direction, moves in opposite direction. If the ball bounces, it remains in play. If the ball hits the top or bottom portion of the screen, it also remains in play. It'd be kind of great to make the ball speed up, so it makes it harder. Every time they hit it, it gets a little bit faster, it gets a little bit harder. So you start thinking about breaking it into tasks. Now, if you're thinking to yourself, well, I don't even know. Remember, we learned, and I showed you on the last code, how to make the ball bounce around. So you know how to make a ball bounce around. And we use functions, hopefully, to do it. And technically, process uses classes and object orientation, but we're going to use the term functions. If it was using class, for those people that have done object-oriented programming, you'd have methods. We're not going to get into that, folks. There's just not enough time. So we're going to call these things functions, okay? So now, let's go ahead, and I want you to, I'm going to give you the right side of the paddle. and you're going to make something for the left side of the paddle. So this is from the processing website. I'm using their ball paddle game. All right, so you got the radian, and we used this last week, but I'm adding this one: Y paddle R, X paddle R, white paddle R. So that gives the starting position of the right paddle. Okay, there's the speed of it, speed of the right paddle. We can start changing those right down the road. I don't think I used it necessarily. And then top to bottom, and the paddle's 1. All right. Now, when you go to set this up, so you're going to need to do this, get this right paddle to work, and then make your left paddle. So that's the first assignment you have. So you have X positions with again, we had that before, so let's go back up here. We have ellipse mode is radius, rectangular mode is centered. This is for the right paddle. It would also work, once you set that center, it's going to be on both paddles, so you don't have to do that twice. Then it's going to say X paddle R is width times 0.7, so that moves the paddle over a little bit, 2/3 over this way, and then the height, so it moves the paddle in the middle part. This is just a starting point. All right? So take a moment. 1, 2, 3. Now, before we go on to the next part of this, we need to talk a little bit about key code and key, because you're going to need to be able to control that paddle once you make it. Just drawing it on the screen isn't really very helpful. Key code allows us, this is a variable. Key code is used to detect the shift keys such as arrow, up, down, left, and right, as well as alt, control, and shift. Where we're using the up and down arrow key, so we need to use this. When checking for keys, it can be useful to check if the key is coded. This is done with the conditional if key is coded, just show an example above. If you want keys itself, there's a key function. We're going to get to that one in a moment. But this gives you a perfect example. Void key press. Remember, that's an event. We have different events in here. Here's key press. If key coded, if key codes up, fill 255. Else, key code down, fill 0. And so that's changing the colors of a rectangle. Well, we can use that to move the arrow up and down, the paddle up and down. Now, we can use key if you want to use any letter key. So if you're there, literally, that's pressing the letter B. You would use the same thing with the letter B. All right? Again, another system variable. This is a system variable. Key code, another system. All right. Now, so if we get into void draw, let's talk what you got to do here. You need to have rectangle. I have X paddle R, Y paddle R. That's the X and Y locations of paddle R. 20, 50. All right? That will draw your paddle. Here's your key press inside here. Outside your void draw. We'll start bringing more functions up here, but here's key press. If key is coded, press up or down. If key coded up, Y paddle, -30. Now, which seems a little bit weird because you're going up. Wait a minute, you said -30. But remember, in the very beginning of this, at the very beginning, I gotta go. Let me see if I can get this here in a. I might have regretted doing this. Oh no. Going back in time. There's about, I don't know, I got 130 slides here, so this probably wasn't my. Let's kind of find, see how far you come along. We've come. All right, there it is. Remember, that's a Cartesian coordinate system we all know, but there it is. Remember, y increases, goes down this way, and going up would be negative, going down would be positive in the y direction. All right, so there's positives going down, negatives going up. So that's why we subtract from it. Now, we're not going to go all the way back to that. Again, that would be ridiculous. All right. So then we have it here. Okay. And then we hit -30, +30. All right. if key coded, all right. So now, if key coded up, let's go back up here. Key codes up, paddle minus 30, key code down, plus 30. Go ahead and do that same thing. Then we're going to see something that's going to start to happen. If you hit the key press, I want you to go ahead and make this, see what the program does. All right? Go ahead and take a minute or two to do that. Okay. Now, what we also want to make sure, we don't want, if you started using this, you could see when you ran this code by itself, the paddle could go off the screen. That's not really going to work for us. So we add that statement. If key code you press up and paddle Y, paddle R, so the R stands for right, paddle, that's what we're moving, and Y is on the Y axis. If that's less than 25, if it's up and greater than 25, greater than 25, so Y is greater than 25, then go ahead and subtract 30. Otherwise, go up 30. Else if, go down 30 by adding 30. And also, again, this will only allow you to do this. Else if key code is down, it'll only do it. And paddle R height is minus 25. So again, same thing we were talking about before. All right. All right. Now, does this paddle now stay on the screen? Go ahead, take a moment, do this code. Because ultimately, you're going to have to do, your homework tonight is do everything I'm doing here on the right side, you're going to do it to the left side. Finally, we're going on to looking at the ball bounce. All right. This is kind of think like when we were going to do something about, let me go back over here, ignore this comment down there. Now you, of course, back up and see what it is. I just left the text and like, does the paddle stay on the screen? If X position is greater than the paddler or X position is less than the circle, all right, do X direction plus or minus 1. If Y position is greater than the height, Y position is less than the size of the circle itself, the ball, Y direction minus 1. So what I want you to do is run that program on what happens. And I will get this code fixed. I want you to think about how does this ball behave? After you add this bit of code. How does this ball behave? All right. Okay. What I think you'd see when you start to run this is that the ball, and we'll go through this, I'm going to show you on some of the programs, but the ball will tend to go off the screen. It'll go up and down. So I'll show you. Go ahead and run it. You're going to notice that there's almost like an imaginary line that the ball now no longer passes through. We'll show you that in a minute. This bit of code considers, the first one was too raw for lots of reasons. If you do this code, you're going to see it doesn't work super great for several reasons. This dials it in a little bit more. This says if X position, which stands for the ball, is greater than X position of paddle R and the Y position. Now we're going to consider Y. Last screen we were just looking at the X. Now we're considering Y. Is that also greater than or equal to Y paddle R, and Y position is less than or equal to Y paddle right plus 25. So we don't want it to go above the paddle that much. So this is going to say, hey, be above the bottom of the panel, then be above it. And honestly, we could, so you'll get that. And we can go down, change the direction by plus or minus 1. So if it hits basically that area, go ahead and reverse. Else if the x position is greater than the width minus, again, the size of the ball, or x position is greater than the size, as less than the size of the ball. So if it's greater than the width minus the size of the ball, or less than the size of the ball. So this is what happens when it's on the right hand of the screen. This is what happens left screen. If it's about to go off, it changes directions. Also, we're asking about the y right here. If x position height rad, direction minus 1. Now, get that to work. So I would love to see you get that all to work. Down the road, maybe we should consider moving this ball function should just be if you don't hit it with your paddle. Maybe we make a function right here, paddle hits. So you have a void there. Think about creating another function as well. So you have to, right now, I would like you to make a paddle, do the right paddle, get everything the way mine works. Then go ahead and make a left paddle version. Ultimately, we're going to want to put these all in functions. And I think right now it makes sense to split up. Once you have this working, splitting this up. So you have a ball bounce function, ball hits paddle function, or ball paddle, or ball hit. Whatever. You can give it a name on that. All right? With plenty of comments. Now let me go into, we're going to go into, all right. So this is so this is it right here. There it goes, bouncing off. We can download it in. We're going to do some things to get that to down a little bit better down the road. And I just missed it because it's not quite hitting the center. We'll get into that down the road here. Let's go here. There it is. Oh, I missed it. Oh, let's try it again. See, it's not really centered. Like you can see it hits off there. So we'll fix that a little bit here at the time we have. Let's try again. There it is. See how it's hitting a little bit low? So we're going to play with that centering a little bit. I may remove the center mode. In fact, that's what I do right now. So let me do this. So this is, I just want to do a quick experiment with you. We have, when we made this, I'm not sure I also said at the very beginning of this, make sure under void size, no strike from, you've got the ellipse mode that we've had before. We got rect mode here for this. I'm going to comment this out and see if this works any better without that. And then, all right, let's go ahead and run that again. See, well that didn't. Well, that worked worse. Wait a minute. Let me get my. I don't like that because now it's kind of pushed me up here. I'm not sure it worked any better, but let's see. So you make that change. It works. I think we get the. Let me see if we're getting the ball here a little bit better. It's 6 one way, does another. So we're going to have to dial in. Leave the center mode alone. All right. We'll dial that in your next meeting. Let me go ahead and pull that back up. So leave this rectangle mode on. And we'll keep playing with that until we get a better version of this. Here's the code. You can see almost all of it right here for those that are going to come back. And ball bounce. All right. There's ball move right there. All right, so there's ball bounce with the changes right there as well. So I'm showing you, so you can freeze the video later if you'd like to see both those. All right, so here's what I want you to do. I want you to make the paddle. I want you to make the paddle go up and down. I want you to make the paddle go right and left. All right? Let me see if we can show paddle. Pull display, pull bounce. All right, and then let me show you. I'm not sure we showed you right there. Let's make sure you remember. There's the key code for making that paddle go up and down under V code pressed. So that's an event. These are functions down there. I wanted to make sure that was clear as well. All right, folks. Draw the paddle. Make the paddle go up and down. Make the paddle bounce off the ball. And I haven't even told you how to do this. I want you to figure out how can you make the net going across this. So let's go back to drawing. I would like to see you use a loop. Otherwise, I'm open for what you want to make. See this right here? View, present. And we can make our game, it's a little tight. If you want to make your playing area bigger, set that, that's fine. But see right here? You've got these little single, almost like dashes going down, lines, certain thickness to give a fence. I would like you to make that. If you do that, though, I want you to use a loop to do that. Let me give you that suggestion. Make a paddle. So here's what's homework. Make a paddle. Move the paddle with your, I have the right key. Make sure you do my right key, but then also do the left key. And make the ball bounce off your paddle, be it on the right side or left side. In terms of the left side player, let's use, I don't know, W and S, I guess is the two keys we use for that. Okay? Thank you very much, everybody. Bye-bye.